Hey everyone, in this video, we're going to cover all things Shopify Checkout Blocks testing. We'll start with the steps for getting tests set up on your storefront, which will include how to set up the Shopify Checkout Blocks app, how to add blocks to your theme, and your options for what you can test in Shogun. Finally, we're going to end the video with some tips for troubleshooting in case you run into any issues. All right, let's jump into the video. Before I cover the steps for getting checkout blocks set up on your storefront and getting your test started, I just want to talk about the importance of getting your checkout experience perfect. If you can increase your checkout by even 1 or 2%, you're going to massively improve your bottom line, and it's a direct tie to revenue for your tests. So we're really excited about offering this here at Shogun. And now I'm going to jump in to the steps that you're going to have to follow to get this set up on your storefront. Okay, now we're going to cover the steps for you to get set up with checkout blocks testing, okay? If you want to test your checkout, you have to be on the unlimited plan within Shogun, okay? So if you're not on the unlimited plan, make sure you upgrade. Next, make sure that you're on Shopify Plus before you try to get started here. I'll cover in more detail in the next part of this video why you need to be on Shopify Plus, but for now, just know that you do need to be on Shopify Plus if you want to utilize this feature. Next, you're going to set up your test like you would set up any other test within Shogun by selecting the checkout blocks test type within the app. The next step after that is going to be you have to download the Shopify Checkout Blocks app and then create a block within that app. The next step after you've created your block is adding that block to your checkout experience within the Shopify native editor. Finally, once you've added the block to your checkout experience, you navigate back to Shogun, and then you can set your test live. And that's it. That's simple. Those are the steps you need to follow to get started with checkout blocks testing. Okay, so I mentioned that you're going to have to be on Shopify Plus if you want to use this feature. And the reason for that is pretty simple. Shopify only allows Plus merchants the ability to edit their checkout page experience. Okay, so as a result, we can only offer that here at Shogun to folks that are already on Shopify Plus. So if you want to do checkout testing, you want to use Shogun for this, you're going to have to be on Shopify Plus. Okay, so that's the reason why it's only available for the Plus merchants. Now, luckily, Shopify does offer, like I mentioned, the Shopify Checkout Blocks app, which is free for Shopify Plus merchants. So you're going to want to make sure you download that app because it's going to work alongside Shogun to deliver the variants properly to your end customers. Okay, now we're going to cover what elements can actually be tested using checkout blocks testing. Now, because Shogun utilizes display rules to be able to show the blocks to the appropriate users for your test, we can only support blocks that have display rules in the cart attribute. Okay, so these are going to include dynamic content, custom fields, and line item edit. So those are the types of blocks that we're going to be able to support at Shogun. Just keep in mind, we utilize those display rules, so the display rules have to be available for us in order for us to run those tests. Okay. Also, another thing to note, with any test you run, you can either show a new block that doesn't exist on your current checkout, you can swap one block for another, or you can simply hide an existing block that's on your current checkout and you want to test a variant that just doesn't have that block. Okay, now it's time to dive into the app, and I'll show you how to get started setting up your checkout blocks test. First step is going to be to open the configuration page within Shogun and to set up your tests. Now it's time to jump into the app, and I'll show you how to get started. All right, so here I am in the configuration page for the checkout test. I'm just going to go ahead and add a name and some notes like I would for any normal test. It's going to be for our Eyes in Need program. It's an announcement that we want to make within our checkout, and we're going to use this test to launch it, okay? So I'm going to show a block on variant. You got 3 other choices here. You can either hide a block or show a different block. Key insight here, make sure you grab the Shogun variant ID and the key values. You're going to need these on the next step when we go over into the Shopify Checkout Blocks app and build our block. So now that we have this, I'm actually going to go over. I'm going to make sure I have the Shopify Checkout Blocks app installed, and then we're going to go ahead and set up our block within that app. All right, so your first step with creating your block is you have to install the Shopify Checkout Blocks app. Head to the App Store, search for Shopify Checkout Blocks, and download the app. Again, make sure you're on Shopify Plus, and you'll have access to be able to use this app to personalize your checkout, and this will be how you're going to create your block. Once you've installed the app, pretty simple. We're going to go ahead and select blocks to get started creating our checkout block. And here we're going to go ahead and select create block to create a new block. And here's the thing to pay attention to: custom content with display rules. Now, these are the block types that you'll be able to choose when setting up your test. So make sure you choose one of these options. Okay. So for this test, pretty simple. We're just going to go ahead and select dynamic content. And then here you can select a template to get yourself started with creating your block. And in my case, I want to do an announcement for our Eyes in Need program for our sample tester store. And so I'm going to go ahead and select the banner as my template to get started with that, creating that block. Okay, now all that's left is to actually go ahead and create our block. So here we are in the editor here, and we're going to create our banner. So I'm going to go to the edit the content. And of course, I'm going to add a title, and it's going to be the Eyes in Need program. And then I'm going to add the content of the banner, right? So I'm going to go ahead and promote the Anderson Sonny's sales. When you buy one, we donate one to charity. And so we're going to go ahead and basically create that as an info banner. So we're going to go ahead and add that as the option here. And then basically we're going to save this out and we're good to go. Okay. So once you've created your block, the next step is essentially to go ahead and add display rule. So when we go to add a display rule, you'll remember, this is where we want to put in the key and the value. So the key ID is just going to be Shogun variant ID. This is what we copied from the Shogun test configuration page. And we're going to go ahead and paste also the value in there as well. And so at this point, we've set up our block. And the only thing left to do now is essentially go over to the editor and add this block that we just created to our checkout experience and set it live. Now, when you're ready to set your block live, the nice thing that Shopify provides you here is a little step-by-step modal to help walk you through the process. So I'm going to go ahead and click status and activate the block. So now it's live. Now I have to add it to the editor. Okay. So I click this link here, the Shopify provides, and it gives me block settings, which has a block ID and then has a preview ID as well. And you're going to take that data when you click through and it brings you to the block editor. You're going to use that information to add your block to your checkout, and also to preview the way it's going to look for the end user. Okay. So now we go to the editor, and this is where we officially add our block that we just created to our checkout. Okay. So now we're going to go over there and I'm going to show you exactly how it works when we're inside the Shopify editor and we're adding our block. Okay, folks, I'm officially in the Shopify editor now, and I'm going to add my dynamic content to my checkout. So I'm going to click that little plus sign there, and I'm going to go ahead and add my dynamic content block. You'll remember the block ID was set to 0, so we're going to click 0 here. And then I'm going to copy that information that was provided by Shopify in the Checkout Blocks app. I'm going to paste it here. And now you can see that we're actually seeing a bit of a preview here for the Eyes in Need program. And there's a little disclaimer at the top. That's obviously not going to show up to your customers, to the end viewer. It's just a warning that Shopify provides to let you know that, hey, make sure you remove the preview ID before you set your block live. Okay. So you just enter that in temporarily so that you can see what it's going to look like. In this case, I like the way it looks. And so we're good to go. So we're going to go ahead and basically have this in. We're ready to rock. So now we're going to go and move on to our final step. This is so exciting, everybody. Our final step here, which is we're going to go back to that test we set up within Shogun, and we're going to set it live. Okay, I am back within the Shogun test configuration page, and we are ready to click review to get this test started. Once we click review, it's going to open up our modal. And once we're ready and we feel confident, we're going to go ahead and click start test. And this is going to send our test out there in the world and set it live. Now, once it's live, if you want to go ahead and preview what's happening on your live site, you can pull up your site and you can open up an incognito browser, saying in Google Chrome, and you can try to trigger the experience, go to your checkout, and obviously try to trigger the variant to see what it looks like. So you can do that using incognito window. So next we're going to cover some troubleshooting, just in case you happen to have an issue with one of your tests. Here's some areas where you can explore first for a solution. Number one, make sure your display rules for the block are lining up from Shogun app to checkout block. Okay, so make sure that the display rules that you set up for the cart attributes within the block are set with the Shogun key and value properly pasted over. So check there, make sure you pasted over the proper key and value, and make sure those are lining up. That's the first area you're going to want to check. Second, confirm that the block was successfully added to the checkout via the Shopify editor. So that was that next step. Make sure that that's been added properly, and make sure that it's all set up and you've selected the proper settings there, like I mentioned, to make sure that that block's actually been activated and live. Make sure everything's turned on too. That's another thing you want to pay attention to. And look, there's a few different moving parts here when it comes to checkout block testing with Shogun. But if you have any issues, don't hesitate to reach out. Support@getshogun.com. That's why we're here. We're here to help you be successful in getting these tests set up. Support@getshogun.com. If you go through these list of troubleshooting items and it turns out that you still maybe have an issue, that's why we're here. So please reach out to us. We'd love to hear from you. And I hope you enjoyed this video, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one.